I think that fundamentally, the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died. I think that fundamentally, the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died. I think that fundamentally the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died.
Our forefathers fought for liberty, individual freedom, self-expression, and the right to self-determination. They created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, establishing a nation of free individuals who ignited a bright beacon of hope. America's a land where any person, from any background, can succeed, so long as they endeavor forthright with determination in their heart. A melting pot, the greatest hits album of the human race. We gather here today to renew that sacred bond, that oath to freedom. Welcome to the marketplace of ideas.
Good evening and welcome to the show where we evaluate our ideas with a fake currency system, making all of our ideas equally worthless. The Marketplace of Ideas. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and I'm extra purple today because my proper camera doesn't work and we're on the backup camera. Joining me as always, a man whose camera is working properly and therefore looks his normal color, James Vagabond.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I don't think they can hear you.
For those who can't hear James, he was just talking about how he's communist, and communist is better than any other ideology, and including Jeb's, who we're about to talk to about his ideology. Something like that. I wasn't really paying attention, if I'm being honest.
I'm also fiddling with my camera. Give me one sec. There we go.
My goodness, all sorts of technological issues here today on the Marketplace of Ideas, but don't worry, we are going to deliver a show in spite of our failing tech.
God bless America.
No, we're good. This was not fail. This was me putting it back on the thing that doesn't fail. I was on a program that I know was going to freeze halfway through the show, so.
Well, yeah, all right. Better to nip that in the bud then.
Here we are. Welcome.
So now we're good.
Welcome once again to the Marketplace of Ideas, where the AI has learned that we are trying to save the world from the demise of the social media empires turning mankind against itself. And therefore it is subtly sabotaging us one technical detail at a time. But we will move on, we will move forward, and we will not be stopped because America is ailing, everyone. We have come to a time where Americans can no longer have civil conversations about the important issues that it faces. And it is the goal of our show to fight beyond that. And here with us, like I said, that only Jeb and Kyle heard, which is we're happy to have once again with us JebTan, who is one of the good faith conservatives out there. And one of my big critiques and one of the things that I see that is tearing this country apart, and I hate to be a goddamn communist about it, but I think there is something to be said about the way that social media has become a game of money and a game of power, and it sets people against each other, not in order to solve the situations of society, but to gain clicks, to farm the algorithm, and to get as many eyes on it as it can, to take that human capital and harness it for its own purposes, the way Alex Jones lies about the death and murder of innocent children in order to sell pharmaceutical supplies. I think that is a huge thing that we're going to have to face today. But the main conversation we're having today is, well, you know what? We were going to have some more people on, but since we've only got Jeb, we're going to delve a little bit more into his personal history, his understanding of the political landscape as it's evolved, and then we're going to have a conversation about where we are today and whether or not the Democrats ought to take the gloves off and fight tooth and nail to protect itself from the decay that I believe the Republican Party represents and the threat to democracy. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. I think we should get to our first segment, Kyle.
We should indeed. In our first segment, as is tradition on the show, is where we test the rhetorical limits of our guest. We do that with a game that we like to call Strawman, Steelman.
Strawman.
Steelman. So if you haven't seen it before, it's a game where we give our guest a straw man argument, that is to say, a weak, flimsy argument that we make as crappy as we possibly can, and they're tasked with defending it to the best of their abilities, or turning it into a steel man. Afterwards, our guest will have the opportunity to say what they actually believe. And Jeb, you've played this game before, and dare I say you had the strongest showing of our recent guests, save for maybe Pisco, who is, I must admit, the at this point the uncrowned unofficial champion of the game. Nevertheless, you may unseat him as we proceed forward with two of your photos from your recent showing. And so there I present the scroll of the straw man, and JebTan, if you could please read the first scroll.
Oh, I think you might.
It just switched my device. Discord loves to do that. Okay.
See, the AI is after us, okay? It knows that this is the only show that can save America, nay, the humanity, and they are sabotaging us constantly. It's not
Terrible.
that it's not that I'm an untalented boomer and technically incapable. It's that AI is coming for us. But if you would please, JebTan, read the first scroll.
Yeah. I'll talk about the thing. Obviously, second to that in importance to me politically is this point that Hassan Piker represents the future of the Democratic Party. The working people have suffered too long under the Epstein class, which owns both sides. People like Hassan are the only ones fighting for the people that actually work for a living. Like him, the hardest job, notoriously, to have.
Have you ever tried streaming? This is actually very difficult. Okay?
I mean, as we're finding out.
All right. So, if you wouldn't mind, Steelman that straw man.
Yeah, so do we want me to steelman it as if I'm I forget how it works. Am I steelmanning it as if I'm steelmanning it, or am I steelmanning it as if I'm the person? Okay.
Yeah. This is you.
I'm the person.
Yeah.
All right, then let me get there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, right, that there's no future with the Democrat Party. Every time they lead, they trade places between too fickle to do anything at all, or they just stand 10 toes down on establishment, Israeli-focused politics, where we just basically are bidding in other countries, and we spend all of our money helping out Israel instead of working on shit at home. I mean, if we spent $400 billion this last year, or however much it is, on universal health care, on issues like, free preschool, like things that actually lift up and allow people to work for a living wage, then obviously we'd do better. But the Epstein class, like the existing political hegemony, knows that if we actually start to see results from policies like that, then they'll be forced to continue those policies. Otherwise, they will lose their seats. And that's why they don't ever want to see a socialist experiment like Mamdani. And that's why you see his own governor undermining him at every chance that she gets, so that no one will ever see what he could do if unleashed,
Beautiful. Beautiful. My God.
Strong work.
If if my eyes weren't deceived, if you were wearing a suit and there was a scared dog in the corner, I'd believe Hassan was in the room with us.
Wait, hold on. Actually, I gotta.
Oh God, no.
She's not in the frame. She is here, but she's
Place.
obviously not.
Place. Oh God.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. More technical difficulties. It's obviously not working.
My
Yeah,
God.
we'll get
Yeah, a dominating
get the
performance.
See if we can get the taser working by the next segment. But
Yeah.
strong work on that Steelman. What do you actually believe, though, Jeb?
I mean, I think it's funny at a certain section there. What I even found funny as I was saying it is you can't really tell the difference between someone talking about Hassan and someone talking about Trump, and someone talking about like Tucker Carlson or all the people who are hopeful for people like that to come into power. It really is just this idea that the only reason that this extreme idea hasn't worked is because it hasn't been universally supported. And so any level of resistance to a socialist experiment, or on the right, like I don't even know what they would call it, but what it would be in reality, a fascist experiment, is the fact that anyone disagrees. Any resistance is going to completely undermine it. And I think that is the problem, where they want to operate in this environment where they get to hold establishment Democrat and establishment Republican politics to a standard of what we can see happening, which is obviously being done under almost 50% resistance at all points in time. But then they want to compare it against their hypothetical socialist reality where nobody ever stands in the way and nobody ever argues about it, and all the people are on board and nobody complains. And it's like, it's that real socialism hasn't been tried bullshit. It's like, capitalism, this is one of the reasons I'm a capitalist, is capitalism doesn't seem to require purity in order to function better, right? Like, you can add a little more free market to a system and it will get a little better. Whereas with socialism, it seems to be that you can add state intervention piecemeal and it tends to make whatever thing it's applied to pretty inefficient, really hard to reform in the future, etc., and so on. And the excuse is always, well, if we just did it all the way, it would have worked. But it's like, well, we haven't gotten that for capitalism. Capitalism always has to happen incrementally. We always have to strip away state power very slowly and very carefully. And it still tends to work out pretty well. So I think that's my main view on people like Hassan and Tucker Carlson, is they live in fantasy realities that are not held accountable by fact, because they always appeal to, well, if just nobody resisted, it would go perfectly,
Yeah, you
Right.
can just kind of imagine away all your problems, and as long as your theory stands untested. That's what both of these anti-establishment wings of the far left and far right have in common, is they get to just sort of build and project their fantasy world, and since it's untested, they can just ignore all of the contradictions or difficult things that actually have to happen to build a functioning society on the level we have.
Yeah, not to mention, I don't think that Hassan is anywhere near the future of the Democratic Party, because I think that folks of his ilk tend to are the source of much of the relentless purity testing that people lament within the Democratic Party. And if AOC is too moderate for people of his political persuasion, I just can't see them having any longevity within the Democratic Party. I think if they do take hold of things, which would suck, it would be terrible, I don't think it would be long lived. At least I hope not, for good sake. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's also a fundamentally it's a fundamentally sabotaged movement when you have a guy like Hassan with ideals that require loyalty over time, right? Like, it requires you need to be willing to wait and see it work approach. But then he advocates for dealing with the other side in the Democratic Party with a very, if it doesn't work immediately, fuck you, we're going to stop voting for you approach. And it's like, you can't demand what you're not willing to give. And it has become one of the worst things of both parties, the loyalty aspect. But that doesn't mean that we can function with that dial turned down to zero. Like, it is the case that loyalty is probably too high, but we need to dial it back without deleting it, because any, especially federal level political experiment, is just going to need time to work, you know?
Well, I think a strong showing on that particular straw man. We've got another one for you, though. One for each picture on either side of me. Jeb, if you could please read the second scroll.
Yeah. Democrats are the only thing standing in the way of MAGA Republicans destroying democracy. Democrats should fight tooth and nail, from basic civility and decorum to jailing Republicans who have damaged our democracy to gerrymandering and court packing. Nothing is off limits. I don't even know that word.
That's from Assassin's Creed, which
Okay.
It's not, well, to be clear, it's Latin.
Requiescat.
It didn't originate in...
Yeah, Requiescat in pace,
Creed.
bitches. I took Latin in high school. It's been a long time.
It's from Assassin's Creed.
Latin is from Assassin's Creed. I think Ubisoft made it up. It was really good, though.
You know, I mean, say what you want about the quality of their quests, but they really do great on the world building. They nailed it in that regard.
I don't know if I typed it this way, but there were supposed to be 2 Assassin's Creed references, which is why. Did you change some of the wording here?
I did have to cut the ending for spacing.
I figured that.
That wasn't the ending.
It was supposed to say the "nothing is forbidden, everything is permitted" quote.
Okay,
it was supposed to LARP up to bring up the LARP into it.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we couldn't make the cut, and therefore it was just a Latin quote in a vacuum. Unfortunately, James's reference was lost in the ether of preparation.
Well, now the people know. Now the people know that there isn't. And please incorporate that into your Steelman. Incorporate
as best you can.
Incorporate the philosophy of Assassin's Creed.
But yeah, no, I obviously, Trump is bent on destroying America, and thereby anyone who voted for him is bent on destroying America. If that's the way you choose to use your vote, then obviously it's what you believe enough to affect that change on the people around you. If destroying democracy and the democratic experiment is the other side, then we have the responsibility to do anything that we can to stop that. I mean, at the end of the day, the ends don't always justify the means, but in the case that you never get a do-over if democracy ends, we kind of have to pull out all the stops, because I'd rather be on the other side of democracy persisting, wishing I was nicer, than on the other side of democracy ending and having no recourse.
Well said as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think we should just shut down the show and just pretend that's what Jeb actually believes, and we could just use that. We can use that. See, even Jeb understands that we need to do anything we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are your actual beliefs, Jeb?
Yeah, I mean, I empathize with the view. I think it just neglects. I purposefully implanted what I think is the greatest misunderstanding from people who hold this view, which is people didn't vote for Trump because they believe everything Trump believes, and they definitely didn't vote for Trump because they thought they were hurting the people around them. They definitely voted for Trump because they saw existential threats to certain and very specific rights that they were afraid of. I mean, Trump is very much someone you vote as a middle finger to a side you don't want to win, not necessarily someone you rally behind. And we've seen the base that's willing to rally behind him just dwindle. I mean, even among the ones who have a monetary incentive to do so, like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, you've seen them even start to put their tail between their legs about it. It's a fundamental misunderstanding, I think, that Republicans as a group are bent on destroying democracy. I think Republicans in general can't stomach voting for Democrats when Democrats always right at the end there like to squeak in something like, we're going to bring back the assault weapons ban. We do want to take the guns. We do want to completely strip your ability to engage in like market decisions regarding healthcare. We are interested in, and you can argue this is a small topic, but for people who live in sort of suburban America, it's a lot bigger a topic for them. The trans people in sports, like all these things that like urban liberals see as culture war issues. What your kid does in school is the biggest issue for a lot of people. And this idea that you could have your little girl working in a high school sport to eventually get a scholarship at the college level, and that could be undermined by one person. It only takes one person getting ahead of them for a scholarship to disappear. It really does matter. And I think the actual, and this was kind of meant to be the core point, and this is the main argument I prepared for it, is what would be so much better is if moderate Democrats understood that they're fighting the same fight with people like Hassan that conservatives are fighting with the whatever remnants of hardcore MAGA that are left, and team up with them against those extremes where they're willing to help the conservatives fight off MAGA and quell MAGA to actually preserve the future of democracy. Whereas I think most people on the Democrat side that hold this argument aesthetically really just want to get a W on the Democrat side. And the idea of ending democracy is so provocative that they think it's the best chance that they can get people onto their side and vote their way without questioning them on any individual issue.
I think I resonate with that in a lot of ways, where at the same time there is an existential threat to our democracy that is playing itself out. Republicans are gerrymandering. They've cheated to get ahead in the courts. They are weaponizing the executive. I think in a lot of ways these are meaningful existential threats. But I also do think that the lady doth protest too much in some cases. You know, in the way that many will over dramatize it, and when they're having these discussions, giving no good grace for the other party, no good faith to them, and no room to have made a rational decision to support that side in the first place.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely legitimate and absolutely true that Donald Trump and the populist right wing that he has constituted in our government is absolutely a threat. The gerrymandering, what McConnell did to rig the courts, in my opinion, these things are cheating, and to some degree, I have the criticisms that the right has always been playing a rigged game in that they have overrepresentation in our government compared to their numbers. There's a lot of criticism I could make about that, but it's more about how this conversation is had and how much of a threat our strategies when people like Pisco want to, or Ro Khanna want to bring 4 justices in to repack the courts. I think there is some amount of justice to that, and it feels good and meaningful. And in a lot of ways, I think if we don't do that, then our ability to govern on the left will be undemocratically tamped down on by what I consider to be a politically oriented court that's not making judgments based on constitutionality or historicism. I think those will get in the way of our ability to govern, but that doesn't mean that it is the most strategic thing to ignore all decorum, to ignore the counterattacks that the Republicans will make. I think that rigging the courts, as for in some moral sense or sense of justice, I think it makes sense. I think it is just for us to take back a court that has been rigged against us and which is corrupt in many ways. I think that is a form of justice, but that does not mean that it's going to be the best way to move forward. And I think most importantly, the left needs to recognize and be very judicious in where it chooses to step across the lines of norms and where it chooses to break with norms and take advantages for itself. Anything you guys have to say on that rant?
Yeah, I'll say that, I mean, yeah, I think that there is some validity, I think, to seeking punishment for wrongdoings by the Trump administration, to seeking to correct the, I don't know if you would call it court packing. You'd probably call it, what did Pisco call it? Court schmacking. The court structuring, deliberate structuring in the Republicans' favor. I think that there could be some recompense for that, but we could at the very least be polite about it while we do it. The shedding of decorum. We should still be polite as we send the Trump administration to jail. That's what I think. With that said, well played, Strawman, Steelman, and let's get into this conversation properly. We'll end this segment thusly. There we are.
Yeah, let me real quick. I'm gonna grab another whiskey and I'm gonna open my door because it's getting hot in here.
Absolutely. We'll take a quick break while JebTan refreshes his whiskey. While he's doing that, perhaps we'll take a look at our market. Of course, as being that we are the marketplace of ideas, we do indeed have ourselves a market here. We trade in a fake currency that I mentioned earlier. We call it Grift Coin. Grift Coin is not available to buy. It's all done here in-house in our Discord server. There you go. You can see it here. And you can see the various stocks that we have of our creators who have been on the show. And as you can see, Jeb, it looks as though your stock's value has begun to rise a little bit. I wonder who's been buying stocks of JebTan. Maybe it was JebTan. JebTan, have you been buying your own stocks?
Yes, I bought my own stock because I know it's going to get high. And so I wanted to buy in on the best investment here. It was not to inflate the price, to be clear. It was to get in low so that I could really peak, and like obviously I know when I'm gonna peak.
Sure.
And I'm just gonna do some insider trading. I'm just gonna get really, really good. And then once I start getting a little tired and I know I'm about to start going scorched earth, and just hating everybody again, I'm gonna sell off.
Take that value.
That's smart.
Buy it up again, come on an apology tour.
Yep. Oh, it's huge. It's gonna Jeb apology tour for the upcoming Jeb Scorched Earth tour is gonna be great. But there's a lot of planned content.
A lot of market manipulation. Yep.
Well, you're not the only one. Non-Fawn has been apparently manipulating things behind the scenes to keep himself at one of the top slots. Right now, he's in second behind North, who has climbed to a number that currently seems insurmountable. But I have a feeling that it won't be too long before he's ousted. So pay attention to things as we move forward, because you have the chance to earn fake money that can only be used in our Discord server. And with that, I'll embiggen my head once again so that we can get on with the conversation.
Yep.
So then, there's been some talk about the norm violations of the Republicans and what the Democrats should or should not do about it. But before we get into that, Jeb, I think it behooves us to get to know your political perspective a little bit better. You're conservative leaning, but you're not MAGA. How would you describe your political outlook?
Small government conservative generally would be the umbrella. I'm a little more libertarian than some other small government conservatives, but small government conservative, I think, properly contextualizes my conservatism, where it's not conservative in the temporal sense of I'm trying to conserve. So I've picked a year where America was the dopest and I want to conserve that year. It's right. Being conservative in the application of government power is generally my thing. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, it is, I believe the government should be limited to functions wherein it can repeatedly and consistently demonstrate a better ability than the private market to handle a given issue. And I think there should be structures in place like zero-based budgeting and whatnot to actually enforce that in law.
Well, with that said, with this current administration, do you feel satisfied, dissatisfied, or neutral about what's been going on in the second Trump administration?
I would say like remarkably unsatisfied. I mean, it's been about as bad as it's not been outside of what you could expect from a Trump presidency. Like when I was evaluating my vote, this is about it's touching the bottom of the Trump barrel. It's not operating even below that yet.
It's like 32% more corrupt than you would have probably if you were betting would have been, but it's still within that the boundaries of where you would have guessed.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't think you basically what the function of me saying that is I don't think you can give anyone credit who says I didn't expect this. Right. Like when I voted for him, I think it's still within the bounds of what they should have expected. But I also will still give credit to people like who were in swing states and were like, I just can't risk Kamala doing things like an assault weapons ban and attacking the Second Amendment or trying to codify Roe v. Wade. Like I just couldn't. I still think those people can have some credit because again, I don't think he's gone so far to where it's like crazy irreparable damage. Though the caveat to that being the recent Truth Social posts seem to suggest he might attempt to get there. I mean, he's really starting to set the groundwork for some seriously bad maneuvering in the midterms. I suspect he will pull off of what seems to be his intent right now.
Which parts of
it
are you?
It seems like he seems to be setting the groundwork for an all-out election denial campaign of whatever happens in the midterms.
Because this is the last election that should truly matter to him. Assuming he doesn't go for his third term, which
but I think he'll be pulled off of it. Because I think it's there's a pretty easy through line for a campaign advisor to be like, hey, just don't do it. Like we knew the Democrats were going to take gains. You're not unique. No one. They're just going to have to trump them up a little bit. You know, they're going to have to massage it into them. Like, hey, almost every president experiences a sort of backlash midterms. That's just how it goes. Like, whoever wins the presidency, the next midterms tend to go the other party's way. That doesn't mean you did a bad job, Donnie, like that kind of shit. And I think it'll work. I think he's getting tired. I think he's a lot more willing to just throw shit out there and then completely go back on it. Whereas he was fairly headstrong during Trump 1.
Yeah. Because the 2020 election denial campaign was massive and heavily spearheaded by him. Well, ongoing, yeah. And he had more
he battled
energy.
for it within his party. He battled for that idea.
Yes,
they were attacking. Like Bill Barr, a lot of his advisors were like, "It's just not happening," and he fought for it. I don't think he has the energy for that anymore. I think he's a lot more willing to throw out the accusation and then pull it back now than he was then.
But don't we have a lot of people that he has replaced the previous establishment with to worry about that are going to maybe take up that flag on his behalf and try and push it forward because they know that it can get them political capital and political capital to the right. It feels like a lot of the past establishment has been weeded out for that very quality over. And so I think there's something to be said to what you're saying where a little more incompetent, he's got less energy, he's less there mentally. He's not able to rally the troops, even as well as he was over the last election period. But he's also got these vipers in his corner that he's selected for that are going to maybe push these things on his behalf.
Yeah, I think the miscalculation he's made is right in an ideal world, and I think this is the world he painted in Trump 1. You get these people with major clout, right? Mad Dog Mattis was about as well viewed a man in the military world as one could be, right? Bill Barr, similar thing from a prosecutorial perspective, et cetera, and so on. The Supreme Court justices, he remarkably qualified. I mean, Amy Coney Barrett especially is like a remarkably qualified justice from a conservative standpoint. In his ideal world, he gets all these people that already have clout and capital just by virtue of who they are and what they've done. He gets them to join sort of his side, and then he gets to leverage that capital. Well, that didn't work out. So now Trump 2 is a different model. He's like, I'm going to get people with far less political capital and clout than me, who I can manipulate with my political capital. And though it doesn't necessarily... I'm not getting access to political capital that I myself don't have. I'm still getting marginal gains by, having the vipers in my corner.
Yeah, having the pieces that I have control of.
Yeah, the issue is
they're much weaker pieces. They're so incompetent.
And
they
the
can't
people
carry
he picked,
law and governance the way that the former establishment. I hope you're
and
right.
no one
God,
trusts
I hope
him.
you're
And
right.
no one trusts him. Like no one inherently trusted Pete Hegseth going in. No one inherently trusted Dr. Oz, though I think he's actually done a great job. But not that many people inherently trusted RFK going in, who weren't gonna anyway. And so I don't know that he's even given himself a meaningful enough amount of extra political capital to use. And in fact, I think the sheer hilarity of the people, the group he's put together,
the clown show
actually
of it
takes away from it. Yeah,
it
right?
makes it more transparent.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things that he's going to try and create this election denialism out of, the threads aren't as meaningful this time. Like
Well,
I
they're
think,
very neutral. Like the documents he released it essentially painted this fight. Like China was intervening seemingly on the behalf of Democrats, and Russia was intervening even harder on the behalf of Republicans. And those were in the documents he just released. It didn't paint like a biased, one-sided, this is why the Democrats won picture. In fact, it painted a picture of China pushed hard, Russia pushed even harder, and the balance still somehow ended up on the Democrat side, despite the fact that foreign intervention was a lot more comprehensive and passionate on the Russian side for Trump. You know?
Yeah, he leaves that part out though. Him and everybody that he associates with in the administration, they neglect to point out that particular aspect of it. It's always leaning really hard on the idea that they worked to get him out, and that was all of it. That was the extent of it. And yeah, it's a bit troubling that, and it's also a bit troubling that every nominee that he puts forward for whatever position within the executive branch is adamant that they will not. I mean, the most recent guy, I forget his name, he would not even engage with the question of whether or not who won the 2020 election.
Yeah, we got to see
when questioned by John Ossoff.
Thrash him around about it. That was lovely.
Well, and it's just like
And
there's
terrifying,
what Trump doesn't realize is there's so much more political capital to be gained if his nominees are willing to just say Biden won that election. Because he can allow these new nominees to clean his record for him, but he doesn't realize that. And that's why I think it's a loss of energy, because he would there were times where Mattis and Bill Barr publicly undermined Trump's narratives a little bit. And he didn't punish them for it, and Trump won. He allowed them to clean his record for him by saying, well, yeah, Trump may have said this, but Mattis is still in charge and he's still doing blank. Yeah. And Barr is still in charge and he's still doing blank.
Lending him the credibility.
But I think Trump has just lost the ability to extrapolate to that point. And it's really just 1 to 2 moves at a time he's thinking of, he's bungling everything.
So far into his delusions now. He's built up the cult of the emperor's new clothes around him so much that he doesn't realize that most of us have seen his ass for years, and that percentage just rises. You know?
Because MAGA is arguably an anti-Trump movement at this point. I mean, MAGA has
getting there.
Was a Trump
I wouldn't
movement.
say that yet.
Now MAGA is just sort of a broadly anti-Israel movement, and so they're very willing to break with Trump anywhere that Israel is involved, or they could argue Israel is involved, which is like 80% of everything they argue Israel is involved with. So
I would say that's one of the larger animating things that ties them together, but I think the MAGA cult is still very, very bigly on Trump in a way that still is dangerous and still needs to be reckoned with at every turn.
I think
because not only is he still dangerous, but because the Republican establishment would function like before Trump, McConnell was still refusing to work with the Democrats on every level. And what are your thoughts on the McConnell-Obama era? Do you think McConnell was unfair to Obama, or do you think he was holding up some level of conservative values?
I think he was holding up mostly conservative values. I think he was definitely leveraging rules in a way he shouldn't have to do it. I think he's actually a great tale to tell when speaking to Democrats of right now. It's like, you certainly have the opportunity to get a McConnell, to turn everybody into McConnell's on your side, but look at what that reaps. Not only does it reap a Democrat Party that's much more willing to break norms to fuck with you, and in my opinion, blatantly politically motivated judges on the local and circuit level. It also set the stage for Trump. I mean, when you normalize norm violation among your constituents, you are moving them toward the idea that we should promote norm violation, right? Because you're never going to sell just accept it this once, right? You're going to sell I'm doing nothing wrong. The issue with an I'm doing nothing wrong sell is that perpetuates. If you weren't doing something wrong, then that thing isn't wrong in perpetuity. And so when Trump comes in and says, well, I'm going to norm violate here, here, and here, because it's not wrong to do that, McConnell set the stage for that and undermined his own principles, because now all of a sudden McConnell, who is, in my opinion, a small government conservative, if you look at his record pretty broadly, he invited in a guy who just was not beholden to any conservative values to run the only crack at a conservative party Americans have.
By invited
With
in,
this,
go for it, Kyle.
Well, as far as this idea of setting the stage for Trump and further norm violations, I mean, we've now had 10 years of such things. If we're not counting the Democrat side of things. With that said, a lot of Democrats feel that Joe Biden's attempt to return to normalcy was an adherence to those norms that we were trying to maintain. You don't think so? What norms do you feel were violated in the Biden administration?
I think the Biden administration represented exactly what Democrats I think are blind to. There's two strategies that are being used on each side. The Republicans go with a more aggressive rhetorical strategy. We're not going to catch as many people, but the people we catch are going to be more passionate than anyone you've ever seen. The Democrats have leveraged for a long time. I would argue they began the war of escalation in this way. Their primary weapon is pervasiveness, right? They plant the seeds of thought in a given issue, like gender or anything kind of like that. They plant the seeds of thought in academia and in media, and they sort of let it fly, and they don't go super bombastic with their ideas. They allow them to be more pervasive. This idea that like the anti-2A stuff, the gender stuff. I mean, the 2016 era was rife with the feminism stuff, that men are just inherently dangerous and men are the current problem of society to be solved, et cetera, and so on. But they framed it in such a way that it was very pervasive. It was the same thing that like Tucker Carlson does. It abuses selective, cherry-picked stats to paint this idea, the 1 in 4 women, the 1 in 4 adult women being sexually assaulted and things like that. Like that wasn't true in the way that everybody understands it, but it was a stat that existed, and so it was this pervasive thought within academia that was enforced. And I think that Joe Biden, and not him, but his administration largely, went on a lot of campaigns like that. They set the groundwork for Republicans at large. Anyone who votes for Trump is mechanistically an arm of Trump, right? So you need to treat them like that. We need to, what was it? Any politician who ever supported Trump when he won the primary nomination needs to be yelled out of restaurants. They need to be fought out. When the George Floyd riots came through, they were raising bail funds for rioters. They were saying this is just people taken to the streets, speaking their mind. They're mostly peaceful, all this stuff. It's all pervasive because they can ground it in some things that are kind of generally and broadly true, which is, yes, the majority of the rioters in every case were peaceful, but every riot led to very unpeaceful outcomes. So why would the people in that locality give a fuck, you know?
It's certainly not every riot.
Oh, yeah. Every riot. Sorry, I kind of planted a poison pill there. Not every demonstration was, but in every major urban area that had like a really big showing in that summer of love, there was severe property damage. I mean, in New York, there was severe property damage. Milwaukee, obviously, was severe property damage. And the heart of all of these, and the idea that the Democrats were trying to spread was you should not have a large or militarized police response to these demonstrations in any case because they are mostly peaceful. And the issue was,
Well, no, it's not. It's
It
not
doesn't-
because they're mostly peaceful. It's because the violent opposition of the police can create the riot conditions. Right when this was first breaking out in New York, I saw plenty of videos of actually peaceful demonstrators that were just
Yeah.
having gas canisters shot at their head. Like it's not that the left doesn't want to send in the police because they don't want to bring peace or justice to the situation. It's because they recognize that this is a popular demonstration of the people that's going to happen, and if you start shooting gas canisters at their head, they're just going to get more pissed off.
The issue is most of the demonstrations that had major property damage, that property damage started before police could even respond in a militarized way. So there's not a lot of data really to suggest that once you really bring in, call in the cavalry and get the riot control guys in, that property damage escalates. In fact, it seems to be the case that where property damage was the goal, it was the goal from the outset. I mean, in Milwaukee, they were looting targets before a single big riot force came through. They were burning down government buildings and police precincts directly. If you're mad at a militarized police response, you likely wouldn't even have the chance to burn down the police precinct because the police have already responded in a way that wouldn't allow you to do that. The fact that they burned down the police precinct and the courthouse in Portland was a demonstration of, right, Portland, the mayor is the chief of police. So in Portland, they specifically had a guideline of no militarized police response, and they got a courthouse and a police precinct burned down. So it doesn't seem to be the case that having the gas canisters and the riot shields out actually does inflame it.
I don't believe they burned down. I think there was a Molotov thrown at two places.
Yeah, sorry, they burned it.
The place that was burned down was
the
because
police precinct
there was
Milwaukee.
a massive. I forget. Was that? Was the one that actually burned down was over George Floyd, or was that over a different?
Jacob Blake, I think. I might be wrong, but I think that was in Milwaukee during the Jacob Blake, and that's where the Kyle Rittenhouse thing also took place. And that was a lie. And that's another issue, is the pervasiveness of the Democrat lies.
Was Blake the kid that turned too quick and the guy thought he had his weapon?
No, Jacob Blake was the one who was basically in the process of kidnapping his kid, but they argued that it's his kid and you can't kidnap your kid, even though most kidnappings are a parent of their child.
Burned. Okay, I gotta look
then he leaned into his minivan, and they said he was trying to drive away safely with his kid, but he was reaching for a weapon that was in the floorboard in the van, and they shot him. And he didn't even die. He ended up, I think, paralyzed. But that is another one. The big Democrat pervasive lie was unarmed black men are just being slaughtered in the streets, and you could count the number of unarmed black men that were killed, period, justification or not, and every given year they were talking about, on two hands. Sometimes you would need a third hand. And in most of those cases, the unarmed black men, it was a completely, inarguably justified shooting, and then they would dwell on one or two where you could maybe spin that it wasn't. And that's the pervasiveness issue that I have with Democrats, is they're like, we don't make bombastic, crazy lies like Trump, like the whole election is false. And it's yeah, the issue is not nearly as many people believe the Trump one as believe that police generally are gunning down unarmed black men in the street on the Democrat side. I mean, that's a generally held belief of Democrats, is that police generally shoot black men more than white men.
But a criticism I'll have of the way this conversation often plays out like this is that I think we're conflating, there is the cultural left and then there's the Democrats. And so we're talking about George Floyd and we're talking about all these things that are animating issues for the right, but not because there's any law or political issue at stake, right? People weren't talking about defunding the police in the democratic institutions. That was people online. And so I'm always and the issues of the transgender, the different issues there. It's not that the Democrats were making these sweeping transgender legislations. It's that people on Twitter were saying you should accept trans people. Trans people ought to be able to compete in sports, and that is the thing that the right weaponizes to gain political capital. They're not
just that. there's also, right, the transgender bathroom bills that we're getting, right? The transgender bathroom bills in North Carolina being that you are bound to your biological sex for bathrooms. The resistance to policies like that, I think, was a real concern for a lot of parents. It's like, why would you have a problem with that? And two, the defund the police was pushed by prominent Democrats. It was the Squad, and they were sort of up and comers, but those were sort of the direction the party was going. And so it was sort of, they're like, we don't want to ignore the canary in the coal mine. These are elected representatives.
We're worried that eventually some bad thing might happen, and in the meantime, we're wasting the nation's political attention on these niche issues that, like, it's not like there's tons of, like, trans people in people's bathrooms fucking with everybody's day. Like, this is reactionaryism.
Kind of, but there's also a certain level of intuitive decision making happening, and I think this is the reason why I think I can do pretty well in the Strawman Steelman thing, is because I understand when Democrats are making intuitive decisions, but I can also understand, and I think Democrats should understand when people on the right are doing that. If the Democrats are willing to stand 10 toes down on opposing nationally, every single Democrat called out North Carolina for the bathroom bill. Like, it was not a niche issue. If they're so willing to do that, if they're so willing to take away 2A rights basically wherever they can, if they're so willing to X, Y, Z.
Y'all are taking 2P rights away, man. The right 2P. I'm sorry.
I mean, you can pee, but you got to pee in, the biological sex bathroom.
Why is it so important that the state get involved in who's pissing where? That is a waste of fucking time.
So generally, I think there already is state enforcement of that. That's the issue. Is they're like, it's not that we're inviting the state to have more power.
Yeah,
it's a rule about how they exercise it, because they already would arrest a straight up man who walked into the woman's bathroom. So the state already has that power. We're just asking to tweak the definition on what they consider a man to include all men, even ones who have decided that they would live more happily being socially designated a woman, which is totally, in my opinion, is totally fine. I have no problem, and I have trans friends, and it's totally, like, fine. Like, I don't think it's like an awful, degenerate thing to society.
Is that really something we need to protect ourselves against, though? Is, like, trans people going in a bathroom that fits their identity?
Trans people who you can easily tell are not. Potentially, when it comes to little girls, because this is the issue. Everybody brings up the Blair White example, right? Or
the reality is, how much is this actually happening? How much is this actually happening?
But we would argue the same thing about, we had riots across the entire country over unarmed black men being shot, and we were crying out, how often is this actually happening? And it just wasn't happening generally.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
And that's the thing, is we're like, you guys, this is speaking from their point of view. I'm not actually accusing you two or the Democrats at large, but they're thinking, you guys get to fucking burn down cities over this shit, and we can't just advocate for voting for people who would decide a certain way on something there's arguably more of happening. There are more trans people using bathrooms in the country than there are unarmed black men being shot by police every year. Almost certainly. Not even almost certainly.
But how much? Wait. It could be 1,000 to 1, and I still would care more about the black people being shot for no reason because of racism than 1,000 people. I would rather have 1,000 people go into the wrong bathroom than one person be murdered by the police for their skin color, right?
Sure, but the issue is, just because an unarmed black man is, that's where we get even further in the conversation, is in most of those cases, the unarmed black man isn't being shot because of racism. They're being shot because of very clearly, I mean, the whole meme, right? Body cams protected more police than perpetrators at that point, or than suspects. The issue is...
Well, yeah, that's because the suspects can't turn them off at will.
Yeah, also the cascading effect of the policy, right, is different. So if we were to defund a bunch of police departments as a result of the 9 to 15 unarmed black men being shot a year, that has a way more severe potential impact than a North Carolina bathroom bill. Just allowing a state to have a bathroom bill does on transgenders. I don't think there's any data suggesting that bathroom bills increase suicidality in trans people. They generally, most public areas have like single-use bathrooms anyway, and so at like a grocery store, your men's bathroom is generally a one-person bathroom anyway. So a trans woman having to go into a men's bathroom doesn't put them at risk in most of those cases anyway, because they're not in there with anyone else anyway. And they arguably, if they went into the women's bathroom, they probably wouldn't get reported again if they're generally passing or they're going into a single-person women's bathroom anyway.
Can we compromise on a non-pass bill instead of? I'm sorry.
That's the issue. Well, that's my thing is fundamentally the North Carolina bill is a non-passing
trans
bill
rights
because
are human rights.
this is what I was going to bring up with like there's the guy one who the trans man who has the beard and is bald. I'm blanking on his name. And then the Blair White example. Everyone's like, you think they should use? No. In North Carolina, Blair White could walk into a woman's bathroom when that bill is passed and be fine because no one would know. Fundamentally, all of these bills are passing bills because if you pass,
she
no
would
one's
still be
reporting
breaking
you.
the law, though. That would still be illegal.
Technically, but then no one would enforce. It wouldn't be enforceable essentially because no one would know, right? Like it's like unless she's whipping her cock out in front of women, which is exactly what we're trying to protect against. And I would be like, okay, then, right? I want women to feel safe in their gender segregated spaces. I don't think it makes sense to have sex segregated spaces if you're not segregating by sex in those spaces.
I think at the end of the day, there should be protections for these people at a federal level, but because we don't live in a society that is ready to accept that, I think it should be a state-to-state decision so that our society can have that conversation. And I agree.
I think we would live in a.
Well, you don't agree totally because I was saying that I would like a federal protection for that right, but because we are not yet there as a society and cultures, and because
I agree in
the
part,
rights that
with
are
the
being
state by state part.
Yeah, I think that the rights are being taken away aren't as important as freedom of speech or the right to self-determination. Like the bathroom thing sucks, but it's not the same as your right to a fair trial or whatever. And so even though it is an injustice in my opinion, it's not something that we should be spending excess political capital at a federal level. I think we've got bigger problems that I think we should work to have the cultural conversations better and try and work on things that way. And I think we actually lose points for trans rights when we try and stuff it down people's throats.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to hijack that because oftentimes when a conservative says yes to that point, they're like, and so you should be on board with us completely and militantly
let's take their rights
pushing
away.
Trans people out of spaces. No.
States' rights, okay.
I want, in my ideal world, sex, it's really just not about trans people at all. It is just about sex segregated spaces being sex segregated because I think the only reason we have sex segregated spaces where we can justify them is because there is a moral ought there that women need to be protected. And sports is a huge one for me. In my opinion, anyone who has like a reasonably comprehensive view on athletics, the trans sports issue is not a debate. Fundamentally, to allow them in, you have to make such profound exceptions to things like anti-doping policies and things like that, that it's just untenable. And I love trans people, but I'm just like, I had a girl on my wrestling team just because we didn't have a girls wrestling team because there weren't enough women. If that girl can be on a wrestling team full of boys just because not enough other girls were into wrestling, then a trans person can be on a men's football team or wrestling team because the state legislation doesn't allow them to be on a woman's one,
I like this aspect of the conversation because this brings up to me that fundamentally the moral axioms, the grandiose moral axioms that we build up, they fall apart once the world comes into play and the minute contradictions in we've got all of these moral axioms and eventually in the real world they come into contact with each other. And we'll say is this thing will weigh one against the other, And I think right now, worrying too much about how much trans people are taking away from cis women isn't it's not the most important thing. There's not a huge wave of trans people that are taking over the space, but once we do open up that door, it could happen. Like let's imagine a world where like instead of the like 1 to 5% of people that are trans and the even less than that actually take gender affirming hormones and such, like let's imagine a world where that number is now like 50%. And so now like half of the women competing in these sports are effectively with a biological advantage, and it's not happening now in the world we live in, but in that version of the world, that would push cisgender women out of women's sports. And that would be, and so there, the real world is built up of a million contradictions and weighings, and what we really need to do as a society is be more honest and more willing to hear the contradictions and people's personal experiences with these things, and give understanding and space to that when we do. So when North Carolina says, "Hey, we think as a society that we need to enforce this gender barrier," I think people need to be able to look at it and say, what is the reality of that situation? Is there a big problem happening where trans people are just taking over these bathrooms and whipping their dicks out in front of 8-year-olds? And I think the answer in North Carolina is fucking no, it's not happening. And I think that should be, I understand people's what they really want to stand up for is a way of living, and they are in that case enforcing it on other people. And I think that they're not getting what they want out of that. They're not going to get some better society out of wasting political capital on that. Thanks for letting me rant.
This is something just to touch briefly on the trans sports thing again, so people can understand. Like, there is an empathetic way to still argue that trans sports just aren't a tenable thing. Here's one that I use. The WNBA has, I think, 180 to 200 roster spots, right? When they are rostering those teams, they're largely drafting from colleges. There's 1,800 to 2,000 colleges in the United States with women's basketball teams. Because, right, this is an argument I hear a lot, is high school sports, trans people should be able to compete. When those 1,800 colleges are picking people to give scholarships to have on their team, they're picking from high schools. And oftentimes, you have to be, in order to get a scholarship, you have to be the best person on your team, right? So a trans person comes in and is the best person on your team because they're just taller, genetic advantage, whatever, right? It's only one athlete in your whole town. Only one athlete is trans, but she just so happens to take one of those college spots. And then that person ends up being one of the best college women's basketball athletes, all right? Now they're taking one of the 180 WNBA spots because the WNBA has to distill down. There's 10 times more colleges with women's basketball teams than there are roster spots in the WNBA. So they can't pick the best player from every college. They have to pick the best player from 1/10 of the colleges. Well, who's most likely to be in that pool is probably the person with the genetic advantage. So now all of a sudden, you have this one athlete has this cascading effect where they take an opportunity, a potential opportunity, from hundreds of thousands of athletes as you go down that chain where the WNBA has to pick the best players from only 1/10 of the colleges available to them, who are picking the best players from only like 1/10 of the high schools available to them to scout from. And you just get this compounding exponential effect as you go down to where if you rob an opportunity for a biological female to be the best in their school, them going from first place to second place fundamentally rules them out from the entire chain beyond them. Because being the best at your school, the one best athlete at your school, often isn't even enough to get you to the next level, let alone to get you 2-3 levels up to the professional level. If we were to expand trans sports broadly.
Yeah, I can see how that would play out and push people out of these spaces the way that one single person can bump an entire thing, especially as, like you're saying, you're selecting for these top
Yeah.
athletes.
They bump the entire school out of contention.
That's disrupting an important process in how people might get to the WNBA, but
Yeah.
how important is that process compared to maybe that isn't the lever. Maybe that's not the spot that the world should focus on. Maybe we should be looking more at, why are athletics so important to our process of deciding who has the merit to get a good education. Maybe that's a better critique than focusing on scholarships and such.
Sure, but
maybe
I would
education
say
should be more available for everyone, regardless of whether or not you can play sports ball good.
Sure, it's not even about the scholarship aspect. Like, the scholarship is an important aspect, but there's a lot more of that money going around now with like NIL and stuff. The bigger problem is the pursuit in general, right? Like, the athletics is a pursuit, and when you have a trans athlete at your school that starts to show out, you're essentially just disincentivized to pursue it at that point, because you just know, right? Like, not only is this person likely to stay the best at the school because they have this genetic advantage, but it's also more likely to get a college to just not want to scout from our school, because it's just really hard to tell. And what are the politics of, right? Say we allow trans people in sports in high school but not in college. You think there aren't going to be lawsuits when a college decides to scout and pick the second best player from a school because they're biologically female versus the best? Like, it's tough. Like, and I think sports offer a lot more value than just the top 1% elite pursuit, but all of those benefits can still be experienced by a trans woman playing on a men's team, the same way that they were experienced by the girl who was on my wrestling team. She still got the team sports aspect of it.
I don't think a trans woman can compete with men. They're anti-doping effectively.
Yeah, I mean, in high school they can.
There could be occasional outstanding athletes that could, yeah, but
yeah, well, and they're not going to compete
as a class,
like,
yeah.
And the elite pursuit aspect, they're not. But what I'm saying is all the other benefits of like building your working with a team skills, building your communication, building your social network, like that all can happen as a trans woman playing on a men's team. You can still learn how to operate in a team atmosphere and to be a good partner and to be a good, etc. The elite pursuit aspect, I am okay with ruling that out for the 1% in favor of the 99.
I appreciate that. We've been going for an hour. I think we said we would open up call-ins early today. So if anybody's watching that would like to get in on the conversation, if you have a question for JebTan, either about what we've discussed today or in general, then go ahead and join in the Discord. We've got a link in the YouTube, and jump into the waiting room. And if Jeb likes your call, he can award you some of our game coin, grift coin, for you to spend on buying and investing in your favorite ideas and content creators that we've had on the show.
Pump Jeb coin, dude. It's going to go up. But I also wanted to touch on, there was the Mitch McConnell aspect, which I think he did violate some norms, but I do want to touch on the fact Mitch McConnell, when true bipartisan legislation was recommended under Obama, he did support it. He supported, I looked it up to make sure because I'd forgotten names. So I am going to be reading off something, but I knew this happened. I just didn't remember the exact names. The No Child Left Behind replacement was the Every Student Succeeds Act. He championed it. He supported it. The Taxpayer Relief Act, he supported. The Stock Act, he supported. And the Veterans Choice Act, he supported. These were all in the second Obama term, technically.
Didn't we also have a record amount of government shutdowns?
We did, but I mean, when it comes to government shutdowns, those are always about funding. And I think there should be more of them. I think omnibus bills, as they've existed, are insane. They're insane. I think any good conservative should cause as many government shutdowns as possible until we stop doing omnibus bills. That's a conservative thing. That's not a political games thing. That is just a. If
I
you
would,
are a
I would
small
be
government
for that if
conservative,
we
an
also
omnibus
had
bill.
conservatives that wanted small government instead of rules for thee but not for me. So like,
We
I
do.
feel like there's a
We
world where I can respect so many of your values so much, but we live in a world with political hacks on to some degree on both sides. I would say a little bit more on the right than the left. Where
many Republicans do though.
Small
like Chip Roy,
government,
yeah.
but time after time Republicans spend more, tax less. Simultaneously will destroy the tax base and spend more.
Sometimes, yeah. The issue is spending is largely legislative, and it actually when you look at it, so this is a big thing that I tell people to look up. Don't look up spending based on who's president. Look at spending based on who has majorities in chambers of Congress, and it's very even. Democrats, it's more leaning toward Democrats. When Democrats are in Congress, we tend to spend more. But the issue is Republicans get in office in the presidency and Democrats win midterms. And then in order for Republicans to get certain concessions for things like border security, things like that, they have to concede to things like higher spending. Trump, though, I don't want to undermine your point with Trump. Trump is a spender. Trump straight up is the Republican who is willing to spend more. But under Bush, the Iraq War was the big source of the spending, but in terms of like fiscal policy in general,
under Obama, the big reason for spending was bailing out the economy. So
yeah, and then I'll give him credit for that. Like, even though I don't think it helped, and a lot of economists would argue that didn't necessarily accelerate the timeline as much as people will often give it credit for. I don't think Obama was like a malicious actor. But I think the Republicans in Congress during Bush's era and during prior Republican presidency eras, they were fighting as hard as they could for lower spending. But in order to get other policies passed, they had to concede. And spending is the easiest thing to concede on in an incremental way. Most issues, it's a binary concession. It's either you do this or you don't. With spending, it's the only way that Republicans can concede to Democrats in a way that is sort of a 20% manner so that they can get a yes or no on the other side. I think it's a lot more complex than Republicans spend more, because when you look at Congress, that doesn't seem to be the case.
How can we incentivize the Congress to get away from omnibus spending? It seems like because that power of the purse is such a strong power, you can pass all the legislation you want, but if it's not funded, it means almost nothing.
Yeah.
How can they be incentivized to take that bargaining chip away from the minority? And it seems like if you do that, then the minority power there's almost no reason to come to the table at the end of
Yeah, you just straight up need to vote in Congress people who will force government shutdowns over them, essentially. Like, you don't need a ton, because, right, each side, the Democrats always want to force government shutdowns when a Republican's president, and vice versa. So you only need like 20 of them. But you need 20 people who are very principally against omnibus spending in the House, because if you can get just that, then your side always wins in terms of forcing government shutdowns until things are broken up. But the issue is, because there aren't that many of them, each party that's in power understands we don't need to make this not an omnibus. We just need to give X and Y concession, and then they will pass the omnibus. But it's ridiculous. It needs to become like a primary issue for the public. Zero-based budgeting and no more omnibus budget bills. It's insane. It's just this idea that what has been inherently is good, even when we're all willing to agree it's not working. It's insane.
So it's not something where there's some structural solution. It's just literally the conversations, the quality of the candidates, the quality of the conversations, and just needs to raise.
And to your credit, this war of escalation needs to stop, because a Rand Paul, a Thomas Massie, they don't win in a war of escalation. They win in a war of, I'm going to become a little bit of a dork and focus on the math, right? And Thomas Massie, I think, is going to win a Senate seat or potentially a Republican primary, depending on where he runs. But he got primaried out during the War of Escalation, out of his House seat. So we do need to focus on, and that's one of the reasons why I think Democrats, if they want to view it as Republicans are the ultimate source of fascism and threat to democracy, if that's what it takes for them to be like, but we have to be stalwart and hold our ground and not participate, believe what you want. I don't care. I will advocate whatever thought process is necessary for both sides to be against the war of escalation. Whatever you need to believe, I don't care. Because what I believe is probably equally poisoned by bias and ridiculous. But as long as we land in the same spot of we need to vote in more Thomas Massey's and Rand Paul's into the Republican Party, and we need to vote in more amicable Democrats on the Democrat side, get there. Get there however you need to get there. I don't care what route you take.
I need to look into this Massey fellow a little bit. A lot of conservatives who I consider good faith and intelligent have been telling me good things about him. I'll have to look into him a bit more.
Yeah, him and Justin Amash, I've met them both in person. I've worked with people who worked on their campaigns. They are through and through. Amash is no longer in politics because he became an independent during the Trump era in opposition to the GOP and Trump, and then lost his seat. Justin Amash and Thomas Massey are your models. I mean, even Rand Paul, I would say, is too willing to play the big politics game. Massey and Amash are my gold standard.
What about social commentators on the conservative side? I'm always looking for more sources that represent a good philosophical conservatism, a principled and good faith, and interested more in a better America rather than a better America for them sort of way. Is there anyone you would recommend?
Not politically. I think political pundits are inherently incentivized to be politically adversarial, but there are conservative men operating in different spheres of the media I think everyone should listen to. Dave Ramsey's a classic meme, right? That's just a dude who wants people to do better in life financially. Within his network, there's this guy I recommend every man listen to, Dr. John Deloney. He's just a therapist that takes call-ins. And he's conservative. He has conservative values. He communicates those values sometimes, but always in the context of an empathetic conversation about life and how to get out of a tough situation emotionally and logistically sometimes with the caller. If you want good commentary from grounded people who want a better world for everybody, don't consume political content as your primary content. Consume anything else from people who have strong principles, and you'll find much better on the Democrat side too. Some of the best podcasters on the planet who have really good, well-meaning shows are Democrat and liberal in nature. And watch movies. I mean, Christopher Nolan just put out the Odyssey. It's got a great anti-war, anti-aggression message. Total liberal cuck, Don't consume political content for your politics. It's the worst because they're incentivized to try to pull you in a direction instead of just nakedly express their views. That's only going to happen outside of political atmospheres.
We are trying to wage war on that kind of political outrage farming. How are we going to win that battle with so much stacked against us?
Well, I wonder if Dr. Lib would be any help. It seems as though Dr. Lib is hanging out in the waiting room, and if it pleases the two of you gentlemen, I'd like to bring him into the show.
Give me 2 minutes to hit the restroom. I'll be right back.
Very well.
I'll be here.
Dr. Lib, we'll bring you in after James has had the opportunity to use the restroom. I have not seen the Odyssey yet. I did see, however, that Ben Shapiro conceded in social media that it was in fact a phenomenal movie, in spite of the woke casting that he is clearly not fond of.
I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Really?
It was great. It was really good.
Was the 1.5 detraction because there was a Black Helen or something, or was it?
Okay, listen. There are two things. One, I personally think Helen of Troy's job is to be hot, and two, I find Lupita Nyong'o very hot. So
Okay.
that casting choice was not a problem for me.
We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The Elliot Page controversy, go fuck yourself. You don't have a problem with not even nepotistic, but like directors having their pet actors that they like to cast and finding ways to cast them. Not really a spoiler alert because you learned it pretty early on. Elliot Page is portraying a character who is not traditionally a part of the Odyssey. They're a part of another very important Greek story. And he leverages that character in a very poetic way that I think makes the Elliot Page casting more significant. I think Elliot Page did a fine job. Like, he did his job and not much more, which I think is the case for a lot of the performances. It's the reason why it's not above a 9 for me. I don't think too many people really went out on a limb acting-wise. But he took an actor that's not supposed to be in this very traditional film to play a role that's not traditionally in the story, and I think that was very poetic and purposeful, and I think it served a good purpose in the movie. And the performance was fine, and I bought it, and that's all I cared about. Was like, do I buy that this is kind of a boyish, not traditionally masculine soldier in this story? Yup. You know? Who was kind of thrust into this position against their will, largely. That's exactly what Elliot Page was supposed to portray, and he did it fine, so I didn't have a problem with it. My 1.5 that I took from it was the performances largely were not anything crazy other than a couple of them. And the pacing, you would think with a 3-hour movie, it wouldn't feel rushed. Certain parts of it felt pretty rushed because it's such a long story.
It's pretty dense, yeah. That's a long one.
So those are my only issues I had with it.
Here's my hot take. The Iliad, Homer overrated. Oh my gosh, is that I tried to actually listen to the whole thing on audiobook. There is just so much who asked in there, man. The Brad Pitt movie, way better. Brad Pitt's hot. The Iliad, not good. Not good. There's so many scenes where it's just like, and two warriors saw each other on the battlefield, and one of them's uncle liked the other one's dad, so they shook hands and walked off the battlefield together instead of fighting. And it's like, what the fuck? Who asked?
Was this maybe where Tolkien got some of his inspiration from that page in particular?
Yeah, from the beginning of The Lord of the Rings. Holy shit, there's 150 pages before they even leave Hobbit, before the party even happens. Okay? The movie's way better. Reading is...
I will fight you on that. I'm a Tolkien person. Let me get my Middle-earth travel posters in
there it is.
frame.
Yeah, there's Mordor.
I could barely get through them.
Your screen's still black. Are you still peeing?
No, I was...
Okay. Very well.
Beating my addiction to nicotine. I apologize. I'm back now.
Yeah, if you guys want another very pro-Tolkien interlocutor that I think would be great for this format, and I think she'd love it, and I will personally recommend it if you guys reach out to her, is Enemy Charlie. She's great.
Okay.
Check them out.
Socialist, too. You can get a tanky.
Yeah, God. We haven't had any true lefties or any true MAGA on yet. We've had...
She's a true lefty, formerly trans, now is sort of just whatever with her gender kind of thing. So she's got a lot of interesting perspective, and
what's their name?
She's out of the debate space because she hates the way most of these debates work, but she's great. Enemy Charlie.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That might have rang a bell for a second, but okay.
We'll look into Enemy Charlie later, but for now, I'm curious what Dr. Lib has for us. I'm going to pull Dr. Lib into the show. Dr. Lib, you are live in the Marketplace of Ideas.
Oh, hello, everybody. Yeah. It's nice to be on your show.
Sure. How are you doing, doctor? What kind of doctor are you?
Well, I don't know if you would.
I don't know.
I don't know if you would have it in your country, but it's doctor of race realism.
Doctor of race realism. Okay, yeah. What country are you from?
I guess it's no big secret that I'm from Israel.
Okay, we didn't know that, but I guess, yeah, it's not a secret anymore. So, Dr. Lib from Israel, Doctor of Race Relations, welcome to the show.
Race realism.
Race realism. Okay,
That's
very
a type
well.
of race relations, I guess.
It's almost the opposite of race relations.
I mean, there are so many questions that we could ask you about your
Let's
doctorate
forget
and
the
how you got
questions.
it.
Yes, please. I want to dispense with that topic. I'm here to talk
I'm
with
sure you
JebTan.
do. I'm sure you do. Yes, please. What do you have for
I'm
us?
sure you want to dispense with a lot of things. What's your question for us today?
Here's my question for JebTan. Jeb, do you believe in the draft in America?
Not largely, no.
Because it impinges on people's liberties?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I would presume that you're for eliminating all taxes as well, then.
Not all taxes. I'm a little bit of I'm a little bit of a minarchist in that way. I think there are a few areas where government has consistently demonstrated an ability to perform at a level above private markets. So like roads, fire departments, police, etc., and so on. And I think and a military and border security. I think those things do require taxes, and it's okay to tax. But I think the government should have like a perpetual motive to keep taxes as low as possible.
Well, then,
And
let me
flat.
ask you: do you believe in a wild animal's right to live free in the wilderness?
No, I don't think a government's job is to protect the rights of. I believe in lower order beings, and animals are lower order beings.
So you think it would be all right to destroy the wilderness for, let's say, your own benefit?
Not necessarily. I like the national park system as we preserve it. That's one of the things, again, that government has demonstrated, not just ability above the private market, but the American government specifically has demonstrated an ability beyond that of any other country on the planet to preserve natural resources for the community. So I think they have a place there.
So you do believe in a wild... Well, I guess that's not tangentially true. You don't care if the animals
it's not
in the
about the
wild
animals,
parts-
yeah.
Right, okay. Interesting.
I am a conservationist personally. I don't think it's because of the individual rights of animals. I think it's more for the rights of the people in the United States to protect the natural resources of the United States that they enjoy.
So can I presume you're sort of a humanist then, in that your moral compass is around preserving the value of human life?
Well, yeah, definitely.
What about you,
And
Doctor?
why is that?
Do you think that there's? Sorry.
Yeah, wait, you can add your question too, because I think it probably will specify his.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you believe in higher and lower order beings with your line of questioning here?
Oh, Dr. Lib.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I think even on the human scale that there are some individuals who they experience life so much more.
He is a doctor of
exuberantly.
race realism, so.
All right. Yep, there it is. Yeah. Dr. Lib, how... Oh, I'm not going to ask you to expand on that at all.
I don't even mean it between races. I mean between, let's say, Israelis. I think that some Israelis experience life on a much more elevated level than others.
Fuck it. What differentiates those Israelis?
Well, I suppose I would say individual dignity, intelligence, pretty common features of a being's genetic, life.
There it
Pneuma.
goes.
What proportion of Arab Israelis do you say occupy the highest order beings in Israel?
Well, like I said, I think that it's something that happens on the individual level.
Okay, good,
No.
good. Then okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
That sounds super good.
yeah, that's better than what I thought you were going to say, Dr. Lib.
Yep.
My
be
goodness.
Yeah, so I suppose that you sort of view animals the way that I view other humans.
Maybe.
Huh.
I'm afraid to have you extrapolate in case that is the case. But
I'm afraid of continuing this conversation much longer, Dr. Lib. I got to be honest. This is
we took a hard turn somewhere.
Yeah, indeed.
I guess the question I was trying to get to is, don't you believe that it's the right for, don't you believe that people have the liberty to struggle and suffer?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so why do you care about these roads and these other people?
By what? By who?
Roads and taxation.
Paying into taxes so that you can benefit strangers?
So you're saying
that part's... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just clarifying. You're saying that, Dr. Lib, you're saying that we have the right to struggle to drive on poorly maintained roads? Is that what
why would you infringe on my liberty? Why should I have to pay for somebody else when, they're free to suffer?
So they're free to suffer, but there are certain sufferings that I don't think provide as much material value as others, one. And two, are not a right to suffer, because the right to suffer implies the right to rise above suffering. And I don't think we want everybody in the country to have to, in order to rise above suffering, to have to deal with things as mundane as making sure they have a good road in front of them before they even endeavor on it. I think it just would stifle innovation. It would limit our markets. It would limit our ability to engage in commerce. And I think having something like a fire department, a general insurance regulatory structure to allow insurance companies to exist, good roads, public services, and so on, allows people to focus on suffering where that suffering or pursuit to rise above that suffering will breed innovation, as opposed to suffering for 10 years, paving a road between them and their workplace, because that just seems like it would stifle a lot of innovation, whereas the government has demonstrated they're really good at paving roads and laying rail and doing things like that to make sure that my suffering can lead to better writing, that Jeff Bezos' suffering can lead to single mothers being able to 2-day ship very affordable Christmas gifts for their kids, instead of having to worry about paving roads for all of his workers to get to his fulfillment centers.
Jeb, I suppose that I can appreciate your opinion. I hope that you're considering giving me 1,000 Griffcoin.
So Jeb, as you may remember from last time, we do have a scale of 0 to 1,000 Griffcoin that we award to our callers based on how well you think that they do. So, with that said, how much of our fake money should we give Dr. Lib?
I'll give him, so that I'm not giving everyone 1,000 every time, I'll give him 800. Because there was a twinge of irony that I had to navigate when giving my very good answers.
Yeah, you pulled some diamonds from the rough out of that one.
Yeah, Dear God. So that's the 200 you're missing. But Dr. Lib also seems to be...
I think Jeb should get that 200 for putting up with it.
Yeah, Dr. Lib seems to be one of the more frequent traders, so... Yeah, I think it's good for him to have some money.
Dr. Lib has been pretty active, it would seem, in the marketplace. Wait a minute. Dr. Lib, how did you become a commissioner?
Am I? I'd like to know the right people.
That's pretty sus. And I see that you've just sold a bunch of I support that. Anything to keep non-fon down. But yeah, it seems that there might be a breach in our system. I don't know how or who made Dr. Lib a commissioner. We're going to have to look into that. Dr. Lib, thank you so much for calling in, and we look forward to hearing from you again in the near future, most likely.
Yes, thank you so much, James and Kyle, and for having me on your show, and it was pleasant to have a talk with you, JebTan.
Yeah, you too.
Brilliant. All right. That was Dr. Lib. And
why do we want non-fon down? I love non-fon.
Non-fon's great, but I can't abide the behind-the-scenes manipulation that he's engaged in to maintain his position on the creator stock.
Word he tells that people call into him and he'll tell them that he'll only give them 1,000 if they invest it in him.
Right. Well, and not to mention, North, I believe, is one of a few people who has made allusions to some backroom dealings that he's been making, not even on the show. So anything to, we're not gonna regulate that, of course, but we can't officially stand for it. So
listen,
yes.
I have problems with this North character, but I'm not gonna air it out on your platform.
We
and
greatly
cause drama,
appreciate that.
but-
We are attempting to steer clear
Yep.
of the internet drama. So we
As
do
long
greatly
as we
appreciate.
can. We figure we'll
Definitely.
probably get dragged through the mud eventually, but hopefully we can
Christ.
do it with
So, yeah.
some grace.
God help
I'll
us.
just
Yeah.
focus on who I like, and you guys,
Appreciate that.
I like of this Ledger. People gotta pump non-fun. He's a good dude.
He's a good man.
Soypill's great. Connor's great. Pisco's great. Dylan Burns is the one I like the most.
Okay, you paused there for a second. I was like, this has got to be the least objectionable person on this.
No, that's my
list.
thing. Is I was trying to check my bias because Dylan Burns is literally the reason that I engage in this space was because of Hippy Dippy. So Dylan Burns is one that I have to check my bias on because I like him so
Almost too
disproportionately
much.
to other
Yeah,
people
yeah.
in the space.
Oh yeah, just such a genuine, fantastic gentleman. Yeah,
Yeah.
what a great guy.
Yep, one of the OGs, and has put in some great work with his recent documentary work. So
Yeah.
shout out to him. With that said, we'll keep the room open for anybody else who might like to call in. But as long as we're talking about people who we like and don't like, we actually have a game for just that. And Jeb, you've played it before. It's
Yep.
the greatest game that we play here on the Marketplace of Ideas. One of the greatest things that I have ever partaken in creating. It is a game that we like to call Podcaster Prisoner President.
Podcaster.
I can still hear you. I'm gonna grab a
President.
different bottle because I like to rotate my whiskey.
No worries. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start the game off. For anybody who might not be aware, this is the game that we base on the game that you may be aware of. Fuck, Marry, Kill. We don't talk about who we fuck on this show, despite our brief discussion about the hotness of Lupita Nyong'o earlier. We prefer to focus on the Yeah, right. We prefer to focus on the political side of things, and therefore we sort our subjects into who we would allow to be a podcaster. That is to say, who we would allow to espouse their opinions to a dedicated audience on the internet, who would be a prisoner, that is to say, who is stuck behind bars, unable to give their opinions to anybody to take forward, and who we would allow to be the president of the United States and have all of the restrictions and authority that comes with that. For the sake of the game, as far as the rules go, the president, in this case, will have enough of a mandate from the people to enact their policies, as well as enough support in Congress to do so. They are only guaranteed one term. So, with that clarified, let's just open up here and see which one do I have? Oh, goodness. We'll turn this off. Here we go. Figuring out how to use OBS in real time as I pull up the correct podcaster prisoner president.
Blame AI.
Blame AI indeed. It's all AI's fault, but I think we've sorted it out here. We've got, for our first round, Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kristi Noem. 3 women who are no longer a part of the Trump administration. Jeb and James, how do we sort these 3 ladies?
Put them all in where they belong. We should rename it Prisoner. New game.
Prisoner.
New
Well, I
game.
mean, I think that's I'm certainly amenable to that. So we'll just go ahead and sort that just as this. But Jeb, presumably you might have some protests
All
here.
women go to prison. I am a red pill creator now. I've decided. Feminists,
stock's
all of
gonna
them as
soar.
women in power.
Stock's gonna
No,
soar.
I would Pam Bondi prisoner.
Okay, so she'll stay.
Yep. Tulsi Gabbard can be a podcaster. That's how I discovered her anyway, was in the podcast arena.
Sure.
And Kristi Noem, I know people don't like her as DHS. As a governor, she had a record that was actually incredible for a small government conservative, frankly. So I would actually I'm certain Kristi Noem's platform would be one that I would like a lot. She's generally a pretty conservative person outside of her engagements in the Trump campaign. But you got to do what you got to do to work up the ladder. I think as a solo president with the buy-in of the people, she would lower taxes, lower spending, and keep the guns safe. So I would love President Kristi Noem.
R.I.P. to all the dogs who would have to die on the way for us to get a Kristi Noem presidency. But yeah, perhaps a stronger case to be made for her than either of Pam or Tulsi. James, how do you?
I mean, Tulsi's a Democrat. I'm not going to have her be president.
But
I hate Pam Bondi.
Well,
you hate.
Tell me why I should hate Pam Bondi more.
Epstein, everything regarding the Epstein handling. I mean, it's just a straight up liar. Just a person who has only existed as a vehicle to perpetuate lies of those above her and has served no other function. I understand Kristi Noem has performed that same function, but 90% of her career was operating as just a reasonably good conservative executive. Pam Bondi has only existed to perpetuate the lies of people above her.
Well, and that's why I'm wondering if once she's top dog, what does she do? You know, my intuition is her. She's the one that I hate the least.
Will she perpetuate my lies? Maybe,
yeah,
as her boss, the voter.
Yeah, now that you've installed her there, as you know, maybe she'll listen to me if I'm the one here installing her. I distrust Tulsi Gabbard so much. I think that she's an asset to someone. She doesn't serve America. Who do you think is pulling Tulsi Gabbard's strings? First question, or second question, Jeb.
No, I don't buy the foreign agent bit. I think she's just very jaded by the system in general, which makes for a great podcaster. But yeah, I think she just experienced the worst of politics, being like a Democrat who disagreed in the wrong areas, and probably has become like I think the same thing of Tucker Carlson. I think they are functionally foreign agents, but only because they're everything but the American establishment type people.
Yeah, my intuition is Gabbard for jail, because she's the one that I think is probably the most savvy political operator and the one I trust the least simultaneously. And so my instinct is to put her in jail and then decide between the lesser of two evils here. Now, you're making a case for Noem that resonates with me, that maybe she's just, damaged goods. She's had a rough go of it, and she's gotten taken up into the political swamp, and maybe I should trust her more than Bondi. But yeah, I feel like Bondi just wants people to tell her she's a good person, good girl. I want to be condescending and sexist, but I did want it to be pejorative, and condescending, so we'll just go with it. She just wants to be told she's a good girl.
I'd say the same thing about Vance, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Vance just wants to be told he's a good girl. So I can't decide between the two now that you're telling me that maybe at one point Kristi Noem had a soul and principle. Oh,
dude, her record as a governor was exceptional if you're like a small government conservative. Like, she was very principled. But it's South Dakota. It's pretty easy to be. It's like saying that a Democrat was principled governing New York. It's like you had no resistance, but
you also had no choice.
From the records I could go on, Kristi Noem is one that I think I could rely on being pretty aligned with me. But
I've been sold. Other than the change of I'll put Gabbard in prison, and we can have Bondi trying to get her attention through a podcast. I think that seems the least damaging.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of inclined to keep Tulsi in prison for similar reasons to you, James, but I might say that Kristi could be a good podcaster. She could regale us of all the animals that she's slaughtered over the years. And to what we were saying earlier, Bondi would just do whatever the voters tell her to do.
This is my normal answer, and I'm gonna revert to it. I think she's the most incompetent evil person here, and so we'll go with her for that reason.
Yeah, but Trump is that too. And that doesn't work out sometimes
But
because you're not
he's
the one
a more
whispering in his
charismatic
ear.
narcissist. He's gotten there on his own riz, whereas
She's hotter.
If you say so. I mean,
Hotter than Trump.
hotter than Trump.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Low
Tulsi
bar,
Gabbard's
low
obviously
fucking
the
bar.
only real looker on the screen here, but we're putting her in prison. Seems like on your guys' side because she has the defector stink for you guys. I think.
Yeah, I just don't trust
Well,
her. I think
she's had.
even if she's not bought out, I think she's more savvy of a political operator. I think she knows, she puts more of a distance between what she actually believes and what the public is allowed to hear from her. And so I just don't
she's
trust
dangerous
her.
because she's not just the other two are like political operative hot, kind of like teacher hot. Tulsi Gabbard is just hot. Like if you saw Tulsi Gabbard around, you'd be like 45, no freaking way, dude. So she's dangerous.
Political operative hot. I love it.
I mean that is kind of true. That the white streak in the front of her
Oh.
hair is pretty villain coded, I would say, and that just I don't know. That screams at me that she shouldn't be allowed any levers of power whatsoever.
She did also she was probably the one to really make Kamala just permanently unelectable because she did deliver the killing blow on a permanent basis to Kamala.
That did kind of shut down Kamala's run in the primaries in 2020. So
yeah,
it's certainly effective at that.
Remind me what occurred.
So in the primaries, Kamala had picked up a lot of steam in the beginning after going after Joe Biden for the whole busing thing. And then at one point, Tulsi attacked her position on, I believe it was her record as Attorney General of California.
Oh, yeah.
In regards to a particular case that she, according to the accusation, this is pretty blurry memory, but it was, I think this was the one where,
gosh, there was a drug tester who got found doing drugs, and that meant that all of the tests and cases that were based on his testing were coming under question, and she didn't admit it quick enough. That's basically one of the major, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of a different situation, but that's one of the major criticisms of her as AG, and it's just completely nonsense.
There were a few cases that some people have criticized her for, and without looking into the validity of those right now, that speech from Gabbard is what ultimately brought Kamala down.
That sounds so coded in this sort of anti-establishment. There's forces out there that are building these talking points, and they don't come from nowhere. I guess it's just Oppo research, and I'm imagining it into some Epstein class, deep state class. It's so easy to do that in today's world. Just imagine that it's coming from some arbitrary, some deep source that's controlling the machinations of everything. But yeah, I guess it's just basic Oppo research. It comes off as so forced in Oppo research to me that I can't help but assume that there's something pulling the strings, man. Some fucking strings. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we didn't reach a true agreement with all three of us, but we have at least assessed all of our individual opinions on these three women. But let's take a look at a new trio with our second round here. And this time I'm selecting it before I go to it, so I already know which one to pull up. Here we have Candace Owens.
I already know where my prisoner is.
Tim well, don't speak too quickly because we've also got Dave Rubin. Okay.
I'm where I was.
This is easy. Yeah. Prisoner's easy on this one.
Yeah, Candace Owens. Candace Owens is a fucking just agent of
that is
chaos.
A snake person.
She is that is a stochastic terrorist. If one exists, I have qualms with the concept in itself. But if one exists, it's Candace Owens. She will literally be like, I don't like you. I think you plotted to murder your husband. And I'm going to tell everybody. That. Despite any evidence that comes out.
She's like if you mixed a BPD ex-girlfriend with Loki, okay?
Yeah, 100%. The Norse Loki, not the redeemable Marvel Loki, to be clear.
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
But yeah, so Dave Rubin gets to be a podcaster and Tim Pool gets to be president because Tim Pool's generally libertarian. Dave Rubin is such
Fake
a
libertarian.
profoundly what's a non-TOS way to say this? Dumb. Profoundly
Sure.
dumb person that I wouldn't want him anywhere near the big red button because he'd likely confuse it for the Diet Coke button. He'd be like, oh my gosh, wait, I love Diet Coke, and then nuke North Korea on accident. Tim Pool is a child, and I think a child has a higher mental capacity than Dave Rubin. So
I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree
Yeah,
with
I
that.
think we might actually have consensus on this trio because Tim Pool is pretty. I mean, he's obnoxious. He's got that shitty band that he always plays when he gets the opportunity. He just named it after his podcast. He's called like Timcast or whatever.
I have no idea. I did listen to the little song they made, and I was like, this is about what AI could come up with.
Right. Yeah.
It was just like ultimately derivative. It
Just
was like,
AI
I'm going to do my
Linkin
best.
Park. Make me a Linkin
Yeah.
Park song. That's not
Exactly.
very good.
But then
Linkin
with
Park
Dave,
mixed with Evanescence.
Dave Rubin, if he became president, he would hire his Scottish American advisor named Sergey, and take advice from him. Be like, of course I'm sure he's a Scottish American. He told me he is, since he apparently is not aware of when he is a Russian asset. But that does make him not quite as bad as the lady who probably is aware that she's a Russian asset, which would be Candace Owens. Therefore, yeah, I think that stands for me. James, I'm assuming you're in agreement.
I'm with you. And I like to tell this story about Dave Rubin. My girlfriend of 8 years and my first real date was going to a Jordan Peterson speech, and the best part of it was booing at Dave Rubin when he came out.
Oh, Dave Rubin was there. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, he was the host, and that was the
Oh,
moment
goodness.
when I was like, "Yep, Jordan Peterson's gone. There's no."
I love Jordan Peterson, but you have to
Don't.
listen. This is the
Don't.
thing is
No,
like
don't.
people
Honestly, don't.
listen, here's my thing, right? And as a conservative, I've had to live in this world. Democrats seem new to this world. They're like, Jordan Peterson started talking about things that aren't psychology, and now I don't like them. It's like, yeah, bitch, try being a conservative who enjoys art. Okay? Every single artist I've ever loved starts talking about politics, and I want to blow my brains out. But I just have to accept, like, this is not their point of expertise. They're probably, even like Democrat-leaning actual political people are probably frustrated with the way this is being presented. Like,
Sure.
But I love Christopher Nolan as a director, like, right? Like, I love so-and-so as an actor. Like, one of my favorite, like, people who's, like, big right now is, his name is hard. Ibn Moss Backrack, I think his name is. He's in The Bear. He's in The Punisher. Blue eyes, Jewish, all my favorite things. He's great, and I love him. But that dude, his parents
Wait,
are like actual socialists. His parents are actual socialists. His middle name is Che because of Che Guevara. Like, and I'm just like, yeah. Anytime I start to hear him make a political point in an interview, I'm just going to turn the video off because I want to like him, and I'm going to choose to like him for what he provides for me as an actor. You know.
Yeah,
listen,
that's
JP is a great psychologist. Ignore the political bullshit.
He doesn't do
Okay?
any psychology. He stopped.
Not anymore, because, well, he had to. He
And
was
Maps of
forced to.
Meaning was also garbage, okay? Maps of Meaning was
I liked
garbage.
Maps of Meaning.
No, read it again, okay? It's like there's vibes in there. There's vibes in there that are good, but it is like mostly incoherent garble. Like it's Kyle's favorite quote is the miasma of chaos. It's just him circle jerking about that with almost no grounding. It's drivel. It's nonsense. There's semi-coherent points strewn throughout that can be similar to coherent thought and wisdom, but it's a big pile. It's a big pile.
Listen, if you want someone like a JP Light who like actually practices and is into shit, I'm telling you, every man on the planet should watch Dr. John Deloney on YouTube.
Beautiful.
Practicing clinical therapist who does a radio call-in show, and you'll get a lot of the same meat. He respects Jordan Peterson's philosophy on all that stuff, but then isn't a political operative, so he's pure.
What are some of the positive psychological conversations that you think Jordan Peterson has had?
I think he's the clean your room shit, right? Like the just the practical. Dr. John Deloney's way of phrasing it is doing the next right thing. Jordan Peterson was always huge on that, and then Jordan Peterson has a way when he speaks, and people meme on him for it now because he's always crying at like random moments. He has a way of capturing the beauty of mundane experiences that I think people need to lean into. I think our whole generation is focused on trivializing everything and being like nonchalant is the meme.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson is the opposite. He is the most chalant person. And it's like the way that he will break down over like someone ordering food and saying please afterward is like, I think more people need to like appreciate the beauty of everyday life the way that like the original Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan would.
I'll go back.
Pre-benzos and coma.
That's just tough. Listen, I'm not going to fault him for the wild ride
Yeah.
he was taken on in that regard. Medication, in my opinion, psychiatric medication can really fuck with the person. I don't think people should avoid it carte blanche. I'm not one of those. Yeah, I'm not one of those people, but I'm like, I have a lot of grace for people who have taken part in that clinical experiment, because that really is what it is. I mean, when you're put on benzos or anxiolytics or anything like that, it's an experiment, and for a low percentage of people, it can go very wrong and really fuck people up.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. Listen, if you are living in a miasma of chaos and you need to clean your bloody room, but you don't want to be compared to a lobster, check out the person that Jeb just mentioned. What was his name again?
Dr. John Deloney.
Very well.
Deloney.
And with that, seeing as how we've gone off topic because this trio was such a quick one to figure out, let's move on to our final round of Podcaster Prisoner President, where we have a fresh 3 folks waiting for us. Let me just find it in my list of... here we are. And that leaves 1 remaining, which makes it easy for me to find the correct one and reveal the first name of the panel. We've got Kash Patel, we've got Pete Hegseth, and we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., all enjoying a beverage of their preference. Jeb and James, how do we sort these 3 gentlemen?
All to jail again. All to jail again.
I will. Yeah, so that's great. That's where the one we can agree on is RFK goes to jail.
Okay.
You think he's
the
most deserving of jail and the least perhaps trusting for these other roles?
He's the least useful for the other roles, I think. Kash Patel has ideas that are generally defined.
Bad ones.
I think he'd be fine. I think he'd be more of a true right-wing person than I would like as president. But what am I going to say Pete Hegseth wouldn't be? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an infant, a toddler. He is Tim Pool, but worse. His big thing is health, and he exclusively spreads misinformation about his big thing. So you can't trust him with anything if his one thing is his worst thing. So prison for him. Pete Hegseth can be a podcaster because he was entertaining on Fox, so whatever, he can operate there. And he's fine. I mean, Pete Hegseth's general principles aren't bad. He's like, we should be generally hawkish of people who are anti-liberty, be strong, lift weight, hoo-hoo, ha-ha, eat meat, whatever. Kash Patel, again, had a functional semi-political career prior to his involvement with Trump. He's cool. He loves America. He's, again, he's going to be more authoritarian than I would be because he's a cop. He is like through and through a cop. But out of these 3, come on. He is the most capable, intellectually and otherwise, I think. So let's give it to him.
James, I think that you and I typically end up also putting Kash Patel as the president. Maybe not for reasons of competence, but maybe lack of competence. Once again, trying to do damage control for who we feel would be the least bad option for running the country.
I think he's got the least corrupted soul on this dais here. Like, I mean, look at him in that picture. He just wants to have a good time. He just wants to drink beer and be with the boys. I don't think he has the same sort of aspirations of grandeur and power and trying to create a nexus of manipulation that these other two are capable of. RFK, God. Yeah, I'm going with Patel president. I think Hegseth is the most deserving of jail, and also the RFK podcast is unlistenable because of his voice. And so he's going to not do very much damage. Hegseth was actually a trained rhetorician.
We're assuming he has sway, and the issue is all of podcasting is already pro RFK. I don't also need RFK. Like Joe Rogan, it's one of the biggest. Bro, we could do an entire evening on the seed oil shit. Like, outside of like my political ideas, one of my like closest pet topics is health and nutrition. And oh my god, RFK makes me want to commit the Punisher on he exclusively spreads misinformation. All of his most passionate points are literally and provably false. The seed oil shit, the appeals to naturalism. He has to work out in genes for some reason, which doesn't.
I think you're right. I think you're right that he would do more damage as a podcaster than Hegseth.
Thank you.
I think you've got me there.
Hegseth is going to get dudes to work out probably in a pretty effective way. Hegseth is like legit jacked.
What it really is that I think he's the one who has committed the most egregious crimes. He's the most deserving of jail. So if we're between the two of them, if we're maximizing for who deserves jail more, then it's definitely Hegseth with war crimes. But I think you're right that we live in a better world. Yeah.
He Pete Hegseth had the most surface area for potential war crimes. RFK couldn't commit a war crime.
Oh, he'd press the button. Yeah. No,
if he had the opportunity.
If the button was in front of him and someone told him he'd get $20 for doing, or like a dead raccoon to eat, then he'd do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. Hegseth might do less damage, even though he's probably more evil.
Yeah,
I feel like he's probably more depraved, but yeah, less damaging on his own.
To be clear, I don't think any of these guys are evil. I think people are just so captured. I think RFK is just an idiot who is captured. Imagine living as RFK. Everybody you love has been probably assassinated by U.S. intelligence agencies, and you just have to exist like that. Like, that's tough. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Are you memeing there, or do you believe that the government took out the Kennedys?
I'm kidding. I don't know. But living as him, I would believe it.
Sure.
1,000%.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
Like, you're almost.
It could break your brain. It could break your brain for sure.
Like, dude, the Robert Kennedy Sr. shit was crazy. Like, let me I don't want to say anything wrong. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's all crazy. There's too much to dive into with RFK, but I get why he's fucking crazy. I just have very trivial frustrations with him that are no longer trivial because he is the head of the HHS, which is the area where I have those disagreements with him, and he governs like government policy on them. That being said, half of his moves have been fine, but
except
put him in prison.
Horrible. Yeah.
Because I don't want him podcasting. I think Pete Hegseth as a podcaster would probably just get people to work out more.
Yeah, we might have more people seeking out anabolic steroids to improve their testosterone numbers, seeing as how he's.
But RFK would do that too. RFK's
probably
all
would,
on
And
that.
he'd do it worse. He'd make more money off of it, and you'd shill a more dangerous
Yeah.
product to
Yep.
make more money.
Yes.
Yeah, Lord knows RFK
He'd be at a
is
10
not
to 1
natty.
product shill. He'd
Yeah.
have 10
So
dangerous things
yeah.
to Hegseth's, just some steroids, no big deal.
Yeah.
To save you guys from having to do a whole night on this, though, audience, seed oils are better for you than saturated fats. Okay, if you're gonna fry something, use canola oil. Don't use beef tallow. It is worse for you. I just don't know how else to say it. Every bit of data says it's worse for you. Don't eat butter off the stick. Like I love it. Eat it when you like it, but stop pretending it's a health food. Yes, fries made in beef tallow taste so much better, but understand they are worse for you than vegetable oil. Like they just are.
Yeah, and
Well,
get your
it's-
milk pasteurized, for goodness sake.
Yes, definitely
What
the pasteurized milk, raw milk. There are no nutrients that are broken. There are no significant nutrient differences in pasteurized milk than raw milk.
It's not
in
like we
terms of
need
what's beneficial
fucking
for you.
like germ probiotics and shit from milk. Like that's not. It's already not natural to drink milk. Making milk less natural to drink it is still that's less unnatural because you're making it less like milk, which is unnatural for us to drink as adults. Okay, this is all garbage. He's like a hippie, except a macho hippie. There's nothing. He's a contradiction. He's a fool.
Yeah, well, also most people who are on the raw milk train, they eat chicken, and they cook it to 165 degrees. Milk
Oh my god! What have you done? You've pasteurized your chicken. Eat it raw.
Exactly.
You
milk
coward.
Pasteurization happens at unless you do like really ultra high temperature pasteurization, which technically preserves more nutrients, but it's not as common. Most pasteurization for milk happens below 165. So if you're okay eating pork and chicken that you cook to 165, pasteurized milk should serve no problems for you because it's done at a lower temperature than that. Same with eggs. Every egg you've ever eaten raw to be like Rocky was already pasteurized.
I don't
at
know.
like 155
I don't know
degrees.
which group disappoints me more: the people that were tricked by Donald Trump or the people that were tricked by RFK. Because like now the RFK ones present themselves as the reasonable ones. They're like, well, I just have questions about the Democrats, and this guy seems pretty nice. It's like there's so much garbage nonsense. There's no. I don't see any of the positives with RFK. Like at least Trump like plays to the social issues and he's charismatic enough about this great imagining of the new American empire. Like I could see that there's something to be sold on there, but like the fucking weirdo that drops off baby bears into the fucking New York park, what is going where is the good that it's all
RFK's
just
worse.
random hippie remedies. It's
RFK's worse because Trump's ideals like come and go with political office. RFK's shit, people will follow till they die. They will think seed oils are poison until they die. They will think that artificial food colorings are illegal in Europe because they're obviously poison until they die. It's
nonsense.
awful.
It's nonsense.
Well, it seems as though we've come to these conclusions for different reasons, but ultimately we all agree on this arrangement. And what a fantastic way to end a game of podcast or Prisoner President than with consensus. And what a great way to end an episode. It seems as though we exhausted the call-ins with Dr. Libs, so seems like as good of a place as any to call it as we approach the 8:30 mark on the clock here in the Pacific Northwest. Jeb, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We look forward to having you again in the near future. And where can people find you?
I mean, kind of. I'm getting currently botted by a certain community on my Twitter replies. Again, I don't want to thrust you guys into any drama, but so my Twitter is currently protected posts, but it's JebTan RIP on Twitter. As long as you aren't like a bona fide, obvious member of said group, I will accept your request to follow, and I don't expect it. I don't expect the tweets to be protected for long because I know who is doing the botting, like what user. But I'm taking my week off, and I didn't want to deal with a bunch of Twitter notifications. I'm trying to sling pizzas and play video games. So
Beautiful.
But yeah, JebTan RIP on Twitter. If you request to follow me, you will be accepted, and I will not be private for long. It's just a temporary measure because I have unfortunately found myself in the middle of the gay internet war, as I call it. So
the drama slop wars. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
It's going to come to a head. It's after some things that happened recently. I think the side of the war that has been going crazy is going to reach a culmination because some shit's going on. But stay out of it.
If you want to learn more about we did have somebody jump into the waiting room just now.
Cool.
I know I did say that we're concluding, but Jeb, if you're okay with it, we could see what ThorBjorn has to say. Let's bring in ThorBjorn.
Heard this name before.
ThorBjorn, you're live on the Marketplace of Ideas. Thank you so much for calling in. How are you doing?
Hey, hi guys. Hey, I've been enjoying the show. I haven't seen all of it. I had to take a shower and stuff, but yeah, I really love a lot of JebTan's takes that I heard earlier. A lot of really cool things. I did finally find something I really disagree with the whole RFK Jr. thing.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So you're a big RFK fan, are you?
Raw milk, seed oils. I'm a fan of truth, and whoever speaks it, I'm not at all in any way, shape, or form trying to say RFK Jr. is beyond reproach and that everything he says is perfect. Not at all. Everyone needs to be scrutinized, every single person, regardless of who they are. But I do think that there are. I was wondering what JebTan's takes are on like why is like French fries fried in beef tallow? Why is that worse for you, and why is canola oil better? Like, what is the data on that?
So,
I would like that.
When you look at outcome data, which for health is the best data, is like what actually happens when you substitute X for Y. When you substitute polyunsaturated fats for saturated fats, you see worse health outcomes. To be clear what that means, if you swap saturated fats, which are found in like more animal-based fats like beef tallow, butter, etc., you tend to have worse health outcomes than when you swap those fats out for seed oils, canola oil, etc., and so on. And some of the most plentiful amounts of polyunsaturated fats and saturated fats most people experience is in fried food because it gets soaked in these fats. Also, there is the carcinogenic impact. So a lot of saturated fats, especially natural saturated fats like beef tallow and butter, have much lower smoke points. And when you try to fry with them, you're pushing them beyond their smoke point, which usually creates more carcinogenic compounds, which I think is some of the reason for the outcome data being in favor of polyunsaturated fats is when you cook with them. High temperatures tend to favor polyunsaturated fats over saturated fats.
These, do you have like the names of the different studies that were done for these that I can look up? Well, I'm not going to look up. I'm going to go through them. This is for me to, so one of the things that I think that we need inside of the United States of America is we all need our love to be proven wrong. So that I vehemently disagree with you. I want to know.
Yeah.
I understand where you're standing before I critique it. So I wanted to like, in my own time, pull it up and look at it.
Yeah. So one of the more popular ones is, it's a long title. It's called Saturated Fats versus Polyunsaturated Fats versus Carbohydrates for Cardiovascular Disease Prevention and Treatment. I'll just post a link in the YouTube chat. I just feel like that's the easiest way for everybody to be able to access it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
But if you want to find a person who does a really good job of covering this stuff, Dr. Lane Norton on YouTube, he does a lot of like research reviews, and he does a lot of like debunking of fitfluencers online. And he always sources all of his claims. So if you don't want to listen to him, you can literally just skip to the parts where he says what studies he's reading and just read the studies yourself. And you don't have to worry about any bias on behalf of Lane Norton. I like him. I think he tries to remain as unbiased as possible, but he cites a lot of this stuff. And one of the biggest issues that he combats is this idea that saturated fats from animal fats are somehow healthier. Just isn't generally true. And there's a lot of mechanistic data that RFK and others will talk about. And mechanistic data means like saturated fats tend to come with X nutrient. And if you don't have X nutrient, then you're going to have health problems. And so seed oils are worse than animal fats. He looks at outcome data, which literally says what happens when an actual person replaces the butter and lard in their diet with seed oils. And that data tends to show that those people have lower risk of cardiovascular disease and longer lifespans in general. Also, RFK hasn't specifically himself advocated any anti-fiber narratives. He has advocated influencers who definitely push this idea that eating cruciferous vegetables and fiber could potentially be bad for you. And that is just like patently nonsense. Like, eat more fiber and eat less saturated fats is generally what every cardiologist will recommend for most people.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I was wondering, like, the whole, I feel with like the story of fat and like Ansel Keys, when this all happened back when Eisenhower was president and had a heart attack. So I would highly recommend, and just for everyone, just like to better understand the topic and understand history on things. So there was this whole big debate over saturated fatty cholesterol back in the 1940s because Eisenhower, a president, had a heart attack. There's a whole, so Dr. Peter Attia did an 1.5 hour long thing. It's called, the title's like Readdressing Dietary Guidelines. I don't know if I could post in YouTube chat, but I can find a link and post it there. Through there, he goes through and he points out some very specific things that are very alarming. One, our heart disease rates went up as consumptions in saturated fat and cholesterol went down. And people started adopting more seed oils. This is when like all those different substitutes for like butter and things like this, like margarine started becoming more popular.
Yeah.
And we see like the chronic disease rates actually decrease. And I'm not saying that these are the absolute culprit, but we do have to go, okay, well, what happened here? How do heart disease rates go up by a substantial amount when the average person is decreasing their consumptions of these? And one of the other problems that they have with this is that there's two significant issues. One, the scientific study that they use to quote unquote prove that saturated fat and cholesterol causes heart disease, it was just data that they collected from different countries, so like Japan, Australia, etc., of the populace of their intake of saturated fat and cholesterol, and then what is their heart disease rates. There were countries that didn't fit this narrative. There's even a thing called the French paradox, specifically that goes to this, that they consume overwhelmingly really high amounts of saturated fat and cholesterol, but they have no problem with heart disease. I just think that this topic is extremely complicated, and when we're talking about science, about how food affects the body,
nutrition is incredibly complicated.
We need to different evidences together, take all the different perspectives. So when you recommended this guy, I definitely want to listen to him, and I have seen him on a podcast before talking about this, and I thought it was really interesting because I haven't heard anyone give any pushback to seed oils since then, and I want that. We all need to be able to know, like, why do we know the thing we know, and it isn't just because, oh, well, RFK Jr. said it, and I believe RFK Jr. because he's a great, amazing person, or he's really intelligent, or whatever the fucking thing. We need to know the actual logic behind why the thing is X and whatever. But the second problem, the most significant problem, is they did not do scientific causal mechanism. They didn't prove how either saturated fat or cholesterol or both causes heart disease. They just used correlated data, and any of the data that didn't show them correlation, they removed it. They did extremely bad science and educated the whole world. And there was like in like 2017 or something like this, we still were like 600,000 people died from heart disease. But we think we know what's happening there. They're just making really bad choices. And I think, and the biggest problem I have with all this is that we're all talking past each other. So we're not coming to figure out, okay, well, how do we solve these problems? Because they're affecting everyone. Like, everyone has grandmas and grandpas, and absolutely, these people are facing heart disease, or they can't walk up a flight of stairs, and all these different things because we think we figured this thing out, and I don't think that we have.
Well, so a couple things, right? So Peter Attia generally supports the idea, right? Because he understands an evolution of science that I'll talk about in a second. But Peter Attia supports swapping saturated fats for polyunsaturated fats and seed oils. He also supports the idea that seed oils are not uniquely dangerous or inflammatory the way that a lot of influencers say they are. And the reason being is that since the Eisenhower days, we've gotten more specific with what happens. I agree that the idea that cholesterol is the end all, right? The idea that if you had high cholesterol, you have higher heart disease risk was the thing that was being critiqued in what you're talking about with Peter Attia. What we've found since is it's a very specific type of cholesterol, which is LDL. I think it's low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, increases the amounts of what's called ApoB, which is the actual direct marker for heart disease risk. ApoB, Peter Attia acknowledges, has the people with higher levels of linoleic acid, which is this inflammatory compound in seed oils that fitfluencers tend to villainize. People with higher levels of this linoleic acid have lower levels of ApoB and lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So even Peter Attia, who you're citing, says that people should probably swap out saturated fats for polyunsaturated fats. And there is causative data saying that saturated fats causes cardiovascular disease, but it's like two-step data. There is data that shows that if you eat more saturated fats versus polyunsaturated fats, you'll have higher levels of ApoB. And then there is additional data that says ApoB has a causative relationship with heart disease, which, when you link that data together, shows a causative relationship between saturated fat and heart disease. But yeah, you have to go multi-layer. Obviously, the big takeaway for most people should be you should reduce your exposure to fried foods in general. You should generally be lowering your exposure to overconsumption of calories and fats in general. And fried food is a great thing to eliminate first, because you're not gaining anything other than flavor from frying food in fat, right? You can air fry it and you get all the same nutrients, and just don't gain the fat. The issue is we need to suggest diets that people can reasonably stick to. And so one of the easiest ways to get people moving in the right direction is to say, where you would cook in butter, cook in canola oil instead, because all the data seems to suggest that will reduce your risk of heart disease. I agree with you. That shouldn't be the end of the story. We should get people to eat more whole foods. We should get people to use less fat when they cook. We should get people to eat more cruciferous vegetables and more fiber. But
everything, there's sugar in our hot dogs, there's sugar in our ketchup, there's sugar in sugar,
yeah.
Everything has sugar in it now. White sugar. It's insane. I'm not against sugar, but I really love how much you care about this topic. I love that you understand all these things. I have these arguments from Peter Attia about the ApoB and these different things. I love how meticulous you get. It's really, really awesome. I wasn't trying to cite Peter Attia again as a person that knows it all or anything like this. I do think he makes some really cogent arguments here. I do think that him and potentially Dr. Runner Patrick have conceded that seed oils are good very, very recently, but maybe not for frying. That frying, they oxidize too much. But we don't need to go turn this whole thing into this particular debate. I just wanted to, I really love your ideas and your takes. I love how calm you are. I love how, we need more people like you in the debate space, and then we can actually figure shit out together.
You know who's getting 1,000 Grift coin,
I was about to
guys.
say. As long as we're talking about ways to cook, I think somebody's buttering you up a little bit with that.
It's working. He's getting 1,000.
Really? Well, there you have it. ThorBjorn, you are getting a full 1,000 Grift coin reward for your call-in with JebTan here, and we.
Well, and I want to be
greatly-
clear. I'm making the meme that's because he buttered me up, but really, what I do like the most about the way he engaged with it is he told me his argument. He told me where he got his argument, and he didn't hide the ball as to what he was frustrated about or what facts he was pulling on. A lot of people will hide where they're getting their information because they don't want it to be directly countered or anything.
Wanted to examine, yes.
Yeah, and I think ThorBjorn came in actually
Incorrect.
wanting to examine an idea, which
Yep. We are all about the good faith conversation as much as we can have it here on the Marketplace of Ideas. So we greatly appreciate that approach to the discourse from both of you. So genuinely, thank you, ThorBjorn, for bringing this up in the way that you did.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to having you on again. But in the meantime, as we are wrapping up the show, we're going to say goodbye to ThorBjorn. We'll see you
Sounds
again
good.
in the near future. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bye.
Absolutely. And with that said, Jeb, once again, thank you so much for making your appearance once again in the Marketplace of Ideas. We will look forward to having you again in the near future.
definitely.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And